United Nations Headquarters, New York City, 10:03 a.m. A sudden hush falls near the east entrance. Cameras once pointed toward a scheduled speaker now tilt, slowly, toward a distant commotion. A small crowd has gathered. Delegates, aides, media, all murmuring the same phrase. That's him. That's Ibrahim Traoré. No official announcement had been made about his arrival. No red carpet, no formalities. Just a quiet tension that rose as he stepped from a black SUV. His stride calm, his gaze steady. But something is off. Two UN security personnel, tall, in navy blue, step forward, blocking the doors. One raises a hand. The other whispers into a shoulder mic. Traoré slows. He does not speak. He stands still, waiting. Inside the lobby, diplomats pretend not to look. Some fidget. Some lean toward the glass, but the air outside is thick. Not with sound, but with silence. A long, awkward silence that says more than words ever could. And then, just barely audible, a single sentence is spoken by one of the guards. You are not authorized to enter. The crowd shifts. Someone gasps. But Traoré does nothing. Yet. The refusal lingers in the air like smoke. It takes a moment for anyone to even react. No raised voices, no objections. Just a heavy, still quiet. Traoré's expression does not change. He blinks, once. Looks past the guards, not at them, but through them. Like he's watching something far away. A reporter inches closer, camera rolling, lips slightly parted as if to ask a question. But no words come. A diplomat from Ghana steps forward, then stops, unsure of what to say. No one knows what's happening, and that's the tension. Because this is not how global leaders are treated. Not here, not at the United Nations. Inside, whispers begin. One aide checks her phone, another glances at a nearby ambassador who's now staring firmly at his shoes. The door remains closed. The guards do not move. And Traoré? He turns. Not with anger, not with shame, but with a kind of grace, a kind of resolve that makes silence louder than shouting. He walks back toward the waiting car, not hurried, not defeated, just walking. One step, then another. And the whole world watches, unsure if that's the end, or just the beginning. The car door doesn't open. Traoré stands beside it, hand resting on the roof. He looks up, at the UN building, the glass, the flags waving slightly in the wind. The guards remain at the entrance, rigid, silent. Inside, the press is still rolling, delegates frozen, no statements, no clarifications, just murmurs and glances. 3 full minutes pass. 3 minutes where time feels like it holds its breath. Where no one speaks, no one moves too quickly, afraid to be wrong in a moment that feels historic. Then it happens. The car door opens, but not for Traoré. It's the second door, on the other side, and out steps one man, then another, then 5 more. Uniformed, armed, eyes forward. No words. They do not form a circle. They form a line. 12 men in total, dressed in black, tactical, intentional. Traoré turns once more toward the entrance. No smiles, no scowls, only purpose. No one stops them. 12 armed men, silent and synchronized, begin walking, not charging, not intimidating, but deliberate, practiced, focused. Their boots land softly on the pavement, but to the watching eyes inside the UN lobby, each step feels louder than thunder. Traoré walks in the center, 1 pace behind the front row. His eyes don't blink. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. A UN staff member whispers into a headset. Someone near the security desk fumbles with a badge. A junior diplomat turns to leave, but stops, unsure whether to walk or watch. They all keep watching. Outside, the line of guards splits in 2 and reforms at the base of the entrance stairs, like a protective gate opening around him. The 2 UN security officers, those who blocked him minutes ago, stand taller now, arms still firm. One reaches instinctively for his radio. Inside, someone whispers, "Is this allowed?" But the question vanishes into the silence. And then Traoré reaches the top of the steps. He is now face to face with the guards who once denied him. A standoff, but without violence, just presence. 2 UN guards, 12 soldiers, 1 man, and 1,000 questions swelling behind glass doors and news cameras. No one speaks. No one dares to say what they're thinking. But the thought is everywhere. What does the UN stand for, if not unity? And if this man represents a sovereign nation, why stop him? Traoré stands still, his hands by his sides, not clenched, not raised, just calm. His silence is not passive. It's deafening. The guards hesitate. One shifts weight to his left foot, unsure whether to act or step aside. And that's when it happens. A diplomat from an East African nation, elderly and respected, walks toward the entrance from inside. She holds no rank over security, but as she moves, people part. Her shoes click gently on the floor. She reaches the glass doors, places one hand against the glass, and without saying a word, nods. The moment is brief, subtle, but it cuts through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. Someone whispers, "He's not alone anymore." And suddenly the narrative changes. The guards step aside, not with fear, not with surrender, but with something far more rare in politics: dignity. They lower their hands. One gestures toward the door. No words exchanged, just a quiet acknowledgement that the world is watching, and some actions are bigger than protocol. Traoré steps forward. The automatic doors part with a hiss. Bright light spills from inside the UN lobby onto the steps where he stood moments ago, shunned. Now he walks forward, not alone, not surrounded, but escorted. 12 men behind him, a nation beside him. Inside the lobby, the sound of shoes on tile echoes like a heartbeat. A few delegates rise to their feet. One places a hand over his chest, another bows his head, but most just watch. Because no one had prepared for this. No press release, no memo, no talking points. Just the raw moment of a man who was turned away, walking back in not with anger but with power. A quiet power, the kind that shifts the ground beneath old assumptions. If you felt something just now, anything, pause. Reflect. Then let this channel be your space for truth and courage. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. What would you have done in that moment? Inside the grand marble lobby, the air feels thicker now, still breathable, but heavy, like walking underwater. Traoré walks slowly. No announcement follows him. No interpreter rushes ahead. No staffers with lanyards clear a path. And yet, the entire hall gives way. He is not charging through with defiance. He is gliding through with meaning. His boots click softly, and each sound echoes like punctuation on a sentence that's never been said aloud, until now. Eyes follow him. Eyes that belong to ambassadors, ministers, staff. Some stare with quiet admiration. Others with concern, but all are watching. He passes a sculpture of the UN emblem, its golden map encircled by olive branches, and glances at it only briefly. And for a heartbeat, a thought hangs in the room. Does this symbol still stand for peace? If it denied a man like him the door? A cameraman lowers his lens. Not from disinterest, but out of something like reverence. In the corner, a translator wipes their eyes. And Traoré keeps walking. Straight. Calm. Surrounded. The UN hall is not yet in session, but the chairs are already filling. Some faces are turned toward papers, others toward phones, but more and more toward the glass doors at the far end. They don't need a broadcast. The story is walking in, step by step. At the far left section, reserved for African Union delegates, a seat is marked. Burkina Faso. A small flag folded carefully. A microphone tilted just slightly forward. The chair had remained empty all morning. Unclaimed, as if it didn't belong, until now. As Traoré approaches, a hush falls across the chamber. Not imposed, but organic. Like a reverence one doesn't plan. He pauses, not to make a speech, not to look around, but simply to take in the room. Then slowly, he walks forward. Not to the podium, but to that chair. He pulls it out himself. No aide rushes in to help. He sits, straight-backed, still silent. And suddenly, the seat of Burkina Faso is no longer empty. It never truly was. The chair creaks slightly as Traoré settles into it. He doesn't adjust the microphone. He doesn't pull notes from a folder. He doesn't make eye contact with any one person. But everyone feels seen. In the control room above, a technician forgets to switch the feed. The camera lingers on his face, still, calm, present. A delegate from a Western European country leans over and whispers to his colleague, "He hasn't even spoken yet." The other replies, "He doesn't need to." Because in this single act, sitting where he was told he could not stand, he has said everything. Not with speeches, not with press, but with presence. And in that moment, the chamber becomes something sacred. Not because of power, but because of principle. A reminder that sometimes the most courageous thing a leader can do is simply show up when he's told not to, and sit. Not for himself, but for his people. If your heart feels full right now, or tight in your chest, let it speak. Like this video to honor presence over power. Subscribe if you believe some seats are worth fighting for. And share your thoughts below, because the world should hear them too. There is no gavel, no roll call, no speech yet from the podium. But inside the chamber, something is happening. Not officially, but unmistakably. Diplomats adjust in their chairs. Some lean forward, others sit back, unsure if what's happening is part of the day's agenda, or if the agenda has just changed. The chair from France checks his notes, then quietly pushes them aside. A delegate from Chile crosses her arms, eyes narrowed, not in defiance, but in thought. Real thought. Traoré remains seated, still, unbothered. The 12 guards are no longer near him. They stand at the perimeter, spaced like columns, present but not invasive. One by one, staffers re-enter the hall. Phones buzz quietly in pockets, but no one dares look away now. Something is shifting. And without a word, without a single line spoken, a question hovers across the international floor like low-hanging fog. If this man was denied the door, what else have we denied without even knowing? Up in the booth, behind a pane of glass, sits Miriam, one of the French interpreters. She's done this job for 19 years. She has heard thousands of speeches, some stirring, some stale. But today she hears nothing, and that is what shakes her. She watches Traoré through the glass, his hands folded, eyes steady, not moving, yet commanding everything around him. She remembers the night she fled Ouagadougou as a child, the fear, the silence in her father's voice, and now as she watches this man, her countryman, sit where he was once refused, she feels something tighten in her chest. A tear forms. She brushes it away quickly, embarrassed. But her colleague sees it. He says nothing. He simply places his hand on her shoulder. Gently, firmly, like a memory returning. And in that quiet booth above the chamber, two interpreters don't speak. They just listen. To silence. To presence. To a kind of message that needs no translation. Near the front of the chamber, a seasoned U.S. envoy watches Traoré carefully. He is not one to be easily moved. Years of diplomacy have hardened his posture and dimmed his idealism. But this isn't typical. He whispers to his aide, "Why wasn't he cleared at the gate?" The aide shrugs. "No statement yet, sir." Well, that silence is making more noise than a protest. For the first time today, the envoy does something unusual. He rises, not to speak, not to approach, just to stand, and others follow. A woman from Vietnam, a minister from Nigeria, a delegate from Argentina. One by one they rise, not in protest, not in applause, but in silent recognition. Not everyone stands, but enough do that it cannot be ignored. And in that stillness, the camera pans slowly across the chamber and catches Traoré, breathing in, but still not speaking. Because sometimes what's louder than a voice is a presence that cannot be denied. If this story has made you pause, made you feel something you can't quite name, you're not alone. Like this video if you believe silence can speak volumes. Subscribe if you believe dignity deserves a seat. And in the comments, tell us, what does power mean to you today? The hall is not speaking, yet it says more than words can hold. A gentle hum from the air vents above seems louder now, as though time itself has slowed to breathe. Traoré hasn't moved. His face is calm, composed, not stern but full of something deeper. Patience. In the second row, a delegate from a small island nation watches him closely. She had once stood before the same assembly, begging for aid after a hurricane flattened her homeland. Most didn't stay to listen. But now, she watches him. A man whose presence demands attention, not by force, but by refusal to leave. She clasps her hands, whispering under her breath, not in prayer, but in memory. Traoré exhales, slowly. In that moment, the air between nations becomes a kind of truth. A fragile truce. It's not about politics anymore. Not power. It's about place. Who gets it? Who keeps it? And who must walk through the fire just to claim it? Downstairs, in the UN press room, reporters stir. The room buzzes with tension. Laptops click. Cameras hum. A live stream quietly loops footage of Traoré entering the building with his guards. Still no statement. No press release. No security clarification. No explanation from UN officials. And the silence is growing louder. A journalist from South Africa speaks softly into her mic. Today, history walked in. Not with applause, not with permission, but with presence. The kind of presence that reshapes rooms. Another reporter whispers, "Do we call this a protest? A disruption?" The senior correspondent shakes his head. No, it's not rebellion. It's something harder to define. He pauses. It's remembering. In the silence of 1,000 broadcasts, one question repeats again and again. Why was he stopped at all? No one has an answer. Because perhaps the answer is more uncomfortable than the silence. Traoré tilts his head, not high, just slightly, and gazes upward toward the high ceiling of the hall. His eyes trace the light fixtures, the carefully arranged flags, the marble dome etched with decades of global ambition. But what he's truly seeing is unknown. To everyone else, he's just looking. But to him, perhaps it's something more. Perhaps it's his mother's voice, a soldier's funeral, a border crossed on foot, a dream denied, then reclaimed. A young intern in the corner watches him. She's only been with the UN 2 months, and in this one still moment, she whispers to herself, This is what my textbooks never taught me. This is leadership." He doesn't speak. He just holds that gaze, upward, quiet. And for those watching, it feels like he's not waiting for the world to recognize him. He's waiting for the world to recognize itself. If something inside you stirred, if your chest ached or your thoughts paused, don't let it fade. Like this video, let silence speak. Subscribe to make stories like this reach those who need them. And comment below. Have you ever been silenced and chose to walk in anyway? The UN hall remains still. No roll call, no podium activity. Yet, for the first time in years, it feels truly alive. Cameras no longer move. No one directs them anymore. They simply stay focused. A young delegate from Canada glances at her notepad. She had arrived with points to argue, statistics to share. Now her pen is down. Something inside her whispers, This is what they'll teach years from now. Not the agenda items, not the trade policies, but this hour, this man, this silence." Somewhere in the back row, an elder statesman from Asia nods gently, almost imperceptibly. His hands tremble just slightly. He has served 5 administrations. He's written speeches that made the world clap. But now he sees what none of those speeches could ever craft, a moment that breathes history without needing to be written. Traoré stands. It is quiet, not frozen, but tender. He does not look for applause. He does not turn to the cameras. He simply stands and takes one slow step forward. The sound of his footfall is barely audible, yet it moves something in everyone's chest. He walks toward the back, toward the exit, not rushed, not forced. Just steady. And the 12 guards? They remain. He does not need them now. One delegate places a hand over their heart. Another nods respectfully, lips pressed together. As Traoré reaches the door, he pauses, not for drama, but perhaps to acknowledge something unseen, that this moment was not about him. It was about who he carried within him, his people, his story, and the millions who have been told, "You don't belong here." The glass doors open. A beam of bright light from the marble corridor outside spills across the floor. Traoré steps through it, and just like that, he is gone. No final speech, no flashbulbs, no security chase. Just a man who came, sat in his rightful seat, and left it undisturbed. And now, the UN hall feels different. Not shaken, not stunned, but softened, more awake. The air returns. The sound of rustling papers, of muted murmurs, of people turning, not to leave, but to face one another. Something was stirred in them, in all of us. Not anger, not fear, but the memory of what a place like this was meant to be. A seat at the table for every voice. Even the ones denied entry. Even the ones who walk in anyway. If your heart feels heavier but clearer, then you've just witnessed more than a story. You've seen what it means to carry dignity without a word. So, if this moment moved you, let it live. Like this video so others know silence can still be heard. Subscribe to keep these truths from vanishing, and comment below. Have you ever watched history without knowing until after it left the room?